Jackson is a quality he has been quality assuring what we've been doing. Also together with David, at least you've met David. You may not have met Julian yet. Julian, you're welcome. And David, if you're there, you are highly welcome. And thank you for making this training come this far. This morning is going to be our last Zoom session. That does not end the training yet because you have your evaluation forms to fill in. You also have, if you haven't completed your assignments, please ensure that you complete your assignments and submit. And continue actually to engage with the Moodle platform. And therefore, you are most welcome as we continue with this training session. Thank you.
Dr. Grace, we could have Julian say hi.
Maybe you
yeah.
could, yeah?
Julian could say hi to us.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Do you hear me correctly? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you, Grace. Thank you, Frederick. Well, as Grace explained, my name is Julian. I'm from Belgium, and I'm working just during a few months for the COLEACP training unit. And my job is mainly to keep improving the way this training unit is implementing and doing training session, etc. So in the first step, I have reviewed different training program, and now I'm checking and working with Frederick and Grace in this case to keep improving the way the Zoom session have been managed, etc. Okay, so I'm not an expert on pest surveillance. I'm just an expert on training management, and that's the reason I am here. Okay, so thanks a lot. I will just be here as an observer. I won't be part of your activity. I will just have a look, and after that, I will make a debriefing with Grace and Frederick. Okay, so I wish you the best for this session, and it is really good to see. Furthermore, the last one, as it is always an important one. Okay, thank you, Grace. Thank you, Frederick.
Thank you so much, Julian, for this. Karibu sana. To mean welcome.
Thank you.
Very much.
Yes. So participants, we just start off. I will share my screen real quick here. I wanted to have some ice-breaking moment, but I think you've done so much on the rain things. So I think let me not pass it. Let's just pass it. However, in your own time, try to check out this question. I think it was very interesting. That if a movie was made of your life, what genre would it be? And who would play it? I think it would have been interesting to know this, but I think in the interest of time, let's just start off. So, but think about that. If you are to have your movie, which one would it be? Okay, so today, the training program for today, I think we had shared this out. Let me just maximize my screen. So just to remind us, so we done the breaking. So we are going to do participant feedback. I want to hear from you guys. We want to hear from you how it's been the 4 weeks now that day is last day. How has been this last session that you're having, and then there's anything that you think we should focus on today to make you that you think maybe you have not handled. So we're gonna focus on that right now. And then after that, we take 15 minutes to do a discussion. We have a brainstorming task for module 4 that has to do with specific surveillance. So we'll handle that. And then we'll do 20 minutes of presentation on what you have found out from that discussion. And then we'll also have a 20 minutes presentation from on how to operationalize specific pest monitoring system. Then we'll do 20 minutes to have you guys present your group assignment for module 4. And then we can do a Q&A and discuss together and see what is it that you guys found out and the interesting bit of it and the application of that. And then we'll do a case study. Remember, we are doing 2 modules in this last week. This now for module 5, basically focusing on the false Codling Moth. So this will be a case study, and then we're going to do a discussion about that. And then we check now a general review of module 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then more of like what take home, what is what was the highlights that is really important for your NPPOs. And then, of course, we do a training evaluation. We walk you through how to fill the evaluation form, and then we'll have, of course, just ending of the session. So that is how the training day will look like. So we're happy to join us. So specifically, the objective today is that you're able to discuss challenges associated with operationalization of specific monitoring surveillance. That's very critical. And then we're going also to identify critical areas of consideration individual countries, because we appreciate that each of the countries have different ways in which they are operationalizing this specific monitoring system. So we're going to check on that. And then also we'll discuss how to design and implement a surveillance program, and that is with a case study of FCM. So your take home, if you had to forget everything today, would be try to check that you understand challenges that are involved in operationalizing specific monitoring system, and check out that you understand how to design and to implement a surveillance program. So then, of course, we're going to have a lot of discussions, as always, a lot of discussions, brainstorming sessions, breakout sessions, and then, of course, we have some presentations from Grace, and then we are good to go. So I think with that, then I want to move to, I want to give you guys, let's say about 5 minutes just to get your feedbacks. How has been module 4 task so far? You had individual assignment that you have submitted, and you also had sequences 4.1.1.3. How has been your experiences so far? Could I get any volunteers tell us how the experiences have been, or any challenge? Do I start? Do I pick a case randomly, or do you want to volunteer? Normally Esther goes first. Esther, so you should go first, right? Esther, can you hear me?
Okay.
What has been your How has been your module 4 so far? The assignments and the sequences.
Generally, they have been user-friendly. They've been okay, very understandable, and regards the content, they've been a bit more practical, if I can say. Practical in the sense that they are more of applied questions regarding personal experience. Yes, which is good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think Zilpa's camera was on, and then she put it off because I'm going to call her. So I still have to call her again because she's a new here from Kenya. So Zilpa, what is the experience?
Okay. Okay, my experience has been good. The sequences have been so very interactive, because even if you're not able to capture something on the Zoom session, it was easier to capture it on the sequences while you are reading through the materials there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also the questions.
Thank you so much.
The questions were a bit familiar, and they were very easy. It was easy to tackle them.
Thank you so much. I think I've seen Laurent join us, and also Douglas. Karibu sana, welcome so much, and also Shelter, welcome. And then my friend Clemens, happy to see you. And because Clemens, you're my friend, I'm going to ask you your experience for module 4. Normally I ask you, right? So you able to tell us your experience for module 4 so far? Any feedback? Clemens, are you with us? Then we go to Shelter.
Yes,
oh yeah, yes, Clemens, go.
My experience with 4, it has been good, and it was easy this time. We could easily follow, and in fact, the questions were practical. We could find everything from the sequences which we can answer. We used to answer those questions. It So in my case, they were okay.
Thank you so much, Clemens. Though we are struggling to hear you, I think your mic was very far away from you.
Yeah.
But thank you for that feedback. So I think we should go to house. I saw Shelter's hand is up. Shelter, why did you put your hand down? Please go. Shelter, are you with us? Yes, yes. Oh, Bernard, I'm coming to you. Let me ask Shelter about her response. I think Shelter has gone somewhere. Shelter, are you with us? Okay, Bernard.
Yes, modifier general
Goes first.
Let's Bernard go. Shelter, come back to you in a moment. Let's go to Bernard first. Bernard, go.
Yes, modifier general, it was interesting and it was good learning venture. However, I always ask myself, and I'm asking myself, is it possible for African setup to ensure that we are having pest-free areas?
Say that again, Bernard.
Is it possible to have a pest-free area in Africa? Is it possible to have pest-free area in Africa? I think Grace will handle that, but I think it is ideal. We would look forward to that. But Grace is going to handle that, Bernard.
All right.
So, Shelter, I'm back to you.
You can, by the way, you can. Look at our Lake Victoria. Look at the islands of Lake Victoria, where we grow oil palm trees. You know, the fact that it is isolated and very isolated, it's very possible that you can have a certain pest which is not there. And therefore, even if it's there, you can actually eradicate and manage it. So it's actually possible.
Shelter, are you there? Now, look like Shelter has gone. Is anybody having another response? I think I've heard from Zimbabwe, I've heard from Kenya and from Uganda. I've not heard from Rwanda. Where's Edmond? Edmond left us, right?
Edmond is there.
No, Edmond is there. Edmond, how was the experience? Now, Edmond, I think he's not having his mic on. I wish I could get somebody from Seychelles. Katrina and Jade is not yet with us. So I think.
Hello, Dr.
Yes, Shelter. Now we can get you.
Yes. I just wanted to say that the sequences for module 4, they were quite good and they were very user friendly. But however, I've got a question on the questions that were coming on this module on 4.2. There was a question which wanted us to either to put the word either scope or purpose or anything, but it was describing the extent of the area to be covered by the surveillance, both geographically and in terms of the production system. So to my understanding, we were supposed to write it was scope, but when you put scope, it was denying. So I just wanted to get a clarification on that one. Thank you.
I think we'll have to check it up. Most likely it was supposed to be scope or supposed to be a site area for the surveillance.
All right. Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
And I'm feeling jealous of your background. I think you have a lot of sun there and it's not very nice because Julian is having cold where he is. So that's not very fair. Share with us some sun. Okay, participants. I think, Grace, do you have any comment so that can move to activity number 2 for the brainstorming?
I think the feedback that we are getting from the participants is good. From it, I can draw the conclusion that they really understood the content of module 4, save maybe for what Shelter has just raised about that question, which we need actually to cross-check. And for Burnett, I think I answered that it's actually possible to have a pest-free area, depending on the pest you're talking about, and on the commodity that you're talking about, and the location where you are, and the efforts that you put in, to establish and maintain the PFA. So it's really possible. Thank you so much for all your contributions, all your feedbacks. I would wish to have a lot more feedback on the evaluation form. Back to you, Dr. Frederick.
Thank you so much, Grace. Participants, we are going to go for a discussion, breakout session. And this discussion, we want to contextualize the specific pest surveillance activity to our regions and to our roles that we do as NPPOs. So the task is that as an NPPO official, what do you think is your role on specific pest survey, stock surveillance? What do you think would be the importance of such a survey in your region, in your country? This is what I want to discuss. I have shared it in the chat. So we are going to break into a couple of groups. In those groups, they're random, of course, so just discuss as much as you can. We'll have 10 minutes for discussion. Let me just check that. We'll have, 15 minutes for the discussion, so we're able to finish up that task. So you'll get a request coming to your end. Grace, I think we'll have 3 groups. We are about 13 of us, not 13 really, 11 of us, so 3 groups can do. Okay,
3 can
so
do.
a link will come to you, 3 can do. A link will come to you, just accept it. And if you happen to be in the group where Julian would be, kindly do not ask him any questions. You just do your thing. Okay. So kindly accept the link when it comes to you. Who goes first? Grace, can you help us with this? Which group go first? Group 1.
Georgina's group go first.
Okay. As an NPPO official, I think our roles would in specific survey, our roles will include the designing of the survey. That involves the planning of the survey, the reason why we are doing it, the scope, etc. Then also the preparation of the survey protocols and training of stakeholders who will be involved, and also guiding the stakeholders through the issuance of data sheets and flyers, and also guiding them in the biosecurity and sanitation that has to be followed. The role of the NPPO as well is to define the statistical population and to do awareness campaigns so that everyone will be aware of the pest in question. Then there will be, the NPPO can also do the site selection and pest management program monitoring in order to maintain maybe the pest-free areas of low pest prevalence. Then the importance of such a specific survey, it also depends on the purpose, why it was done. Was it to see the distribution of the population, to detect the pest, or to just monitor? So the importance of a specific survey helps us in establishing areas which are pest-free, areas of low pest prevalence, early detection of the pests, rapid response, and also early management of the pests to reduce costs. And sorry, one more thing. The role of the NPPO also is to report the results of the survey to the involved stakeholders and interested parties. Thank you.
Grace, you're muted. Oh, okay. Grace, we can't hear you. Can you hear Grace?
No, we can't.
I'm not muted.
Now we can hear you.
Okay, probably internet. I was saying thank you so much, Georgine, and I also thank your.
We can't.
Grace,
Sorry, we can't hear.
Grace can't hear you. Move your mic closer. But let's have group 2 going. Group 2, kindly. Let me hear from you.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay, we highlighted on the following points. The first question, it helps in monitoring of pest surveillance programs, reporting on occurrence or outbreaks of pests, data collection through monitoring, preparation of protocols to follow. It also it helps in development and implementation of quarantine, training stakeholders on the pests which are regulated or other pests, inspections of consignment, conducting pest risk analysis. It also helps in planning, also keeping pest status information updated, establishing and maintaining systems to store and analyze or get the data. Also, it can also help in establishing, we establish reporting systems. The other question, importance of surveillance is, we said it helps in reporting on the pests which are exotic or incursion, establishment and maintenance of pest-free areas, aids in early detection of pests and avoid spread of pests, documentation and making of pest lists, monitoring of pest levels. It is important in the declaration of pest freedom. It also aids in detection of exotic pests. Also, we concluded it is also important in assisting in reporting to other organizations such as other NPPOs and the FAO. That's what we discussed.
Thank you, presenter. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, Grace.
We would want to thank both groups that have presented. Let the third group present, then we can make a summary.
So group 3, the last group of Jen. The last group, kindly.
Hello.
Yes, Jen, go.
Yeah, I thought Edmond would present, but let me present on behalf. We have had a fruitful discussion between myself, him, and Laurent. And what we've come up with is that for a specific surveillance as an NPPO, we have the role of determining the purpose of that surveillance. In this regard, we want to know what is the objective of the surveillance? What do we want to achieve? Are we doing it as a follow-up survey on a pest that has been detected before? Or are we doing it as the detection surveillance in reference to probably the market requirements that has been probably prompted by new EU regulations where there is an additional pest that requires to be declared free from the commodities that are imported or exported, and there is need for us to declare the presence or absence? Or are we doing a monitoring where we've been trying, where it has been detected before, and we are trying to see the measures that we've put in place, whether they've been taken effective? So the first thing, we determine the purpose of the surveillance. And then the second thing we do is to define the scope. How far do we want to do the surveillance? Are we just targeting the farms, the normal farms for small scale farmers generally, or are we specifically going to the exporters, probably with regard to the need for them to understand the requirements that have been put in place? Then after we have defined the scope, we need to prioritize. Prioritization in terms of, are we doing a specific site for a specific commodity, probably a greenhouse, or are we doing on a large scale farm? That is what we considered as prioritization in terms of specificity in defining the sites. Then after we have prioritized what we are going to survey on, then we go to the planning bit. And the planning bit, we realized that we need the management involvement because of the facilitation that would come in, and therefore we would require meetings for planning purposes. After we have planned and agreed on the need to conduct a survey, then we would go to the resources available. The resources would require the financial bit and the technical bit, and there could be need for trainings for the experts who will be taking part in the surveillance. After we have attained the resources in place, then we would go to the preparation of the surveillance before it is conducted. And in preparation, we considered that there is need to have the protocols. So if they are not there, then they would be developed. If they are developed, probably there would need for review, depending on the specificity of the pathogen. Probably there is need to go to a specific strain of the pest to see whether there is any evolution that has come up. Maybe there is a new strain, and there would need for us to define the protocols that would be used for sampling and for detections. Then once we have the protocols in place, we would involve the stakeholders to take part with interest to the specific surveillance. And this specific surveillance, we are considering the crop and the pest according to the EU regulations and the market requirements. So we would require some information from the stakeholders prior, probably to tell us how many greenhouses do they have for a specific host of a certain pest, and how are they managing their pest monitoring for that particular pest. So there are those information that we would require from our stakeholders, and that's why we would involve them either before or even during the activity. And alongside, we would also consider to do an awareness. Probably it's a new pest they do not know, so we would consider to show them the symptoms of the pest and even the damage that could be shown in case there is that pest infestation in their crop. Then after that, now we would go to defining on how reports would be generated for a specific surveillance that has been conducted. Are we just going to do an observation report, or are we going to do an observation report and also a detection report combined together? And how is it going to be analyzed? How are we going to analyze our report? Are we just going to put numbers, or there is some statistical techniques that are going to be applied? So those are some of the things that we were considering that are important in report generation. And once we do the report generation, we would consider to define how the communication would be done to the user or to the interesting parties. For example, our NPPO, we would want to communicate to the Ministry of Agriculture that probably there's a pest that has been detected in a certain area, and this pest is of economic importance in this maybe in this percentage for their decision making. We would also need to define ways of communicating to the other NPPOs, just as an alert notice to know that probably Kenya has been found to have a certain pest, or maybe Kenya is declared free of a certain pest, so you cannot reject our commodity and such things. That is what we were able to discuss on terms of roles, but there is also the aspect of the importance of the specific surveillance, whereby we had two general important points, whereby we said for us to conduct a specific survey, it would help us to define, or it would guide us to determine the pest status in a certain area, or maybe in a certain crop. And the other thing, it would help us in decision making in case a pest is there. So what is the way forward? That's what we were able to discuss. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. I think just before I throw it to you, I don't know, participants didn't tell us what challenges would they be experiencing in executing these roles, and how might they overcome those challenges? I didn't see that coming out. I think Jen did imply a few of them, like the financial, but I think that would be something interesting. So Grace, as you make the discussion, maybe also maybe highlight few challenges, and then how you can always go around those challenges.
Okay, thank you so much, the three groups, for all your presentations. When I analyzed it, you looked at the task ahead of you at different levels. Some were at a very high level, others were like more or less operational level. I think from us, the trainers, our view is take yourself as a competent authority, and that's why you're called a competent authority, to be able to, plan and manage and execute pest surveillance effectively. So as an NPPO, you are looking at this from a very bigger picture, and the bigger picture is protecting your country and protecting other places, other economies, meaning protecting also other countries from incursion and establishment of pests. You're not only protecting your crop, but also protecting your environment and their environment. And therefore, your role would be actually to look at it from that level and plan effectively. And within your plan, like the expertise that is required to undertake pest surveillance, specific pest surveillance, and the locality, the geographic area where you think you would need to do that, you would then look at the scope, you would look at the target pest, you'd things go in.
Grace, are we losing you?
In fact,
can you hear Grace?
Even your component of capacity development would, and once you have done with the plan, you now look at the aspect of operational surveillance, the content, and engage with the text. Hello?
Yes, Grace, go on, go on. I think okay, Grace. Your network seems not very stable.
What is happening to my internet?
I think those hailstones.
Keeps me on and off. Okay, I was saying that
now you're clear. Now you're good.
I was saying that you plan first, and then I mentioned the components that go within that planning. And the second thing that you would do would be to operationalize now the plan, going actually down to do your sample with the stakeholders. And in this case, your stakeholders are the people that are within probably the ministry, who are based at the district level. So you have the extension workers, you could be having actually other people who are based down there outside extension work itself, but they do pest surveillance work, and they are within the ministry. Remember, this is your core mandate. So it's not like general surveillance. And as you go now down there to do the sampling, you should take into account how you'll collect your data, how you'll manage your data, how you share that kind of information that you'll have generated. And when you do that, from your planning to operationalization, you need now to cross-check. You need now to monitor, to go back and cross-check, where have we done well, where haven't we done well, how can we perfect what we have put in place. And once you do that, you could have a system where you do your own internal auditing. And remember, we did mention that specific surveillance can also be externally audited, depending on the commodity and the pest. If the commodity is a commodity of export and your trading partner has interest in it, they could actually send people down to come and do the auditing of how you are doing your pest surveillance. And I like, you did mention something about communication. So after you've compiled all this, how are you going to disseminate the information that you've gathered? So all in all, it is a process. It's a process. Planning, operationalization, monitoring what you've done, and then feedback. The feedback is through communication. You did very well in the area of the importance. It's for pest reporting. It's for also pest detection. It's for determination of pest status, like one of the groups mentioned. I just want to briefly hint on the challenges. Some of the challenges could be, one, your capacity to go and undertake pest surveillance may not be adequate. The staffing that you have may not actually be adequate enough to go and do effective pest surveillance. And then also the funding, the resources. The resources may not be there, and therefore it incapacitates you. And one key challenge could be that you may not be in a position actually to know the pest that you are going to do surveillance on. And therefore, you may need to outsource somebody to do for you the pest identification. These are some of the challenges that you could, encounter. I want to thank you all for the brainstorming session, and I want to take you back to Dr. Frederick. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace. I think you have spent a lot of time in that discussion, but I think it was really worth it. So I don't know, can you be able to do us a quick discussion on how to operationalize specific surveillance, to be able to put all this in perspective?
Yeah, I can, thank you. Let me see if I can share my screen.
Yes, I've given you the rights.
Okay, let me, a moment, just. Share screen. It's this one. So I'm sharing my screen. Are you able to see it? And I put it in a slideshow mode.
Yes, it is there. Now I can just make a slideshow, I think, then you're good to go.
So, and it's not really a lot. It's not allowed that it's under operationalization, but this is actually now still embedded within. You are now trying to,
Grace, can you make
to execute what you've planned. Hello? Are you able to see it?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Okay, when you want to operationalize your specific pest surveillance as an NPPO, you should really look at how you are going to rationalize.
Grace, we can hear you. Just go on.
Use the resource.
Yes,
okay, you should be able to.
Yes.
Okay, I'm saying that when you want to operationalize your specific pest surveillance plan, you need to look at how you're going to rationalize the use of available resources to you. And the resources can be in terms of funding, it can be in terms of the time, it can even be in terms of materials. It can be, look at the laboratories that you have. and probably the reagents and the technical expertise available in it. These are some of the things that you need to consider. Rationalize been reflected already in your planning process, and this is what we just discussed. Your surveillance should be concentrated in places with high risks of primary spread of pests. So you shouldn't really waste time in places where you think you will not get the pests. Remember that you need to use the resources effectively. So site selection for pest surveillance is critical if the objective is to delimit pest outbreak or areas that are in immediate surroundings of the non-infested areas. It should be selected, or areas with similar habitat should also be selected for survey. So the way you select your site for survey is critical. For specific pest surveillance, you know that you are focusing on a specific area or a specific production site, and you're focusing on a specific pest or pests. And therefore, this becomes critical so that time is not wasted, because if you waste time, if it's a pest that changes, its life cycle, you might reach a stage even where the pest has become an adult and has migrated. And therefore, the results of your surveillance will reflect something else, not the reality on the ground. So time becomes a resource that is critical. You need to develop field protocol. The protocols we did mention much earlier in some of the modules that we discussed already. And this should include the titles, the authors. The authors are actually you, the NPPO. These authors are not coming from anywhere else. The name of the target pest, the reason why you're doing it, what you expect to get out of it, and any assumptions that you made during the protocol development. You also need to develop field procedures when you are operationalizing specific pest surveillance. This will combine the survey protocol and information on the data from in detailed stepwise instructions. So the field procedures are what actually you are going to do down there in the field when you get to do the actual work. What are you going to do? If it is a confined production site, of course, you don't just go and enter. You need to engage with the owners or the producers or the farm manager, and then it can give you guidance on. First of all, they can give you guidance if the crops are in different growth stages. Then you know which one to sample or which ones to sample. If you're looking at how the pest is, progressing, then it would guide you also how you can, depending on the sampling method that you've adopted, it can guide you. And therefore, field procedures are critical that you need to develop, and therefore it would help you in the kind of data that you get, how you will collect it, and how you will even package it, how you label it, how you ship it to your laboratory. You need to develop a budget when you are operationalizing pest surveillance, specific pest surveillance. And this budget is to be elaborate enough, which takes care of the survey, whatever actions that you will have included in the survey. You need to take care of that. You need to take care of the materials that you require for surveillance. Make sure that this budget is actually developed by a team of people, because even if it's done by one person, but it has to also to be cross-checked, because you could forget something which is very critical. You reach there, for example, equipment and material. If you forget it, it's not going to be easy then for you to capture the kind of information that you want. If you want like traps and you've forgotten to put it in the budget, then how are you going to get hold of the pest that you're looking for? So the budget itself is critical. So it's like an operational budget, and then also budget to support you as the team of the surveillance team. Okay, you also need to adopt an appropriate statistical design depending on the pest behavior. So you see, from the budget, this is now also a part of the operations. The design, the statistical design, including the sampling procedure and method, should be in a position to enable you capture dependable data. So you need to take this into account. Remember that this is your own responsibility. And as scientists, you're not going to run away from statistics. So you also need to develop appropriate laboratory procedure. When you come back with samples that you possibly need to identify, you need to, your laboratory needs to have a
Grace, we are
protocol.
losing you.
Okay, let me give it some time. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Yes,
Dr.
yes.
Frederick, can you hear me now? Okay, let's proceed. You also need to develop appropriate laboratory procedure. From the field, when you come up with your samples, how are the samples handled? There should be a protocol for the laboratory on how the sample is handled. Who receives the sample? How is the sample registered? How are the samples tagged? How are the samples identified? Who is responsible for what? So have a laboratory protocol, that enables you effectively handle the sample. There should also be a good laboratory practice defined in the SOPs. There should be a mechanism of tracking samples and data management. Remember that when you bring samples from the laboratory, after you've identified them, samples are normally kept for references. So remember also that you keep your samples for references. You never know that your trading partner might want to refer to it, might want to, if let's say a misidentification was done, you can use it actually to bring to light, what is being questioned by your trading partner. And therefore samples that have been picked from the field should be maintained for a
I think I've lost Grace, have we?
Yes,
Can
we
you
cannot
hear?
hear.
We can't hear
Grace.
you.
We can't hear.
Grace, can you hear us? I think she was almost done with that presentation. We could
time and maintain in a manner that it doesn't lose, its color, its shape. Very, very vital. And then you develop, this is also one of the ways in which you can operate specific pest surveillance activities. Thank you very much. This would be how you would operationalize specific, there's a budgeting process, there are protocols within, there are SOPs, there's, looking at how the laboratory system will work. So it's quite something that you have to take into account. I want to thank you so much for, following it. Back to you, Dr.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Grace. I think the last 1 minute to the end of the session, we missed you, but you have, I think, packed everything together. So I think we are good to go. I will ask participants for any reaction in 2 minutes, then you can go for quick short break. So participants, do you have any reaction? 1 or 2 questions or 3? In the next 2 or 3 minutes, then we can go for a short break. Any question or reaction? Normally you can unmute or you can chat it down here.
I really don't know what is happening to my internet.
Yeah, no, it's a hailstone thing. It is that hailstone. I told you don't bring it over here.
It can't be hailstone.
But participants, if there is no reaction, silence means no reaction. So as you think about what Grace, yes, Georgina, you have a question?
No, I don't have a question. I think the steps were well delivered. It's now, they were simplified. And okay. I think we are going to be using them.
Beautiful. So I think, can we take a 5 minutes health break? and then you come back, because I think it's normally good to stand up if you're in a Zoom meeting and stretch before blood stops running in your body. So let's take a health break of 10 minutes. We resume here at 11:20. That is where I am, EAT. I don't know where you are, so it's 5 minutes from now. So 11:20, do your mathematics, then know when to resume. But could be, let's say, 5 minutes from now. So see you that time. So when you resume, we'll have presentations from the participants on assignment 4. Otherwise, see you in the next 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Participants, welcome back to the session. So we are having group assignment presentations, and then after that we will have a discussion on the first Codling Moth, and then we are just almost at tail end of today's session. So we're having group 1 presenting. That is Doreen taking the lead as the team leader. So group, can Doreen go on?
Just a minute. Thank you, Doctor. I'm going to be presenting on behalf of my other group members, and this is group 1 presentation. The question was, I'm sorry, I have some bit of flu, but I think I'll be audible enough.
Yeah,
The question was, what steps do you take for the design of an effective pest surveillance and monitoring program? And this is what we came up with. When you receive information on a suspected pest, the NPPO acts by establishing a surveillance team which will work on the pest information such as biology and many others. Then the NPPO will confirm the availability of the required funds that is supposed to carry out the surveillance and allocate the resources to the team that is going to work. Then the NPPO links the team with the district, local governments, research institutions, and other relevant collaborating institutions, and organize working teams based on technical experts. Then, depending on the environmental conditions, samples will be taken, and they will be collected from targeted hosts in the areas reported and other areas expected to harbor the pests. After collecting the samples, they are taken to the lab for analysis, and a report is written. The findings are then communicated by the NPPO to other NPPOs, to RPPOs, and FAO. Then the teams will agree on the frequency of monitoring of that pest, and data collected will be verified, analyzed, and stored for present and future references. That is what we discussed, the first question. Then the second one is, depending on our experiences on designing of pest surveillance, how does it compare with the plant pest surveillance of the IPPC of 2016? And this is what we came up with, that when we compare ours to that of the IPPC of 2016, we find out that there are a lot of similarities in implementing guidelines with the guidelines of that of the IPPC of 2016. 2, whereas the assumption is that the source of information on the presence of a new pest comes from the NPPO, we find out that it is usually from the farmers who give us that information. 3, Sometimes the monitoring and surveillance is not done promptly due to lack of funds or weather challenges. Then 4, they lack proper data collection methods, and in most cases, data verification is equally hard. Number 5, we do not have proper legislation and policies to back up desired surveillance protocols. And then lastly, surveillance programs are hugely limited by adequate human resources, mainly due to underfunding. That is what we discussed in my group.
Thank you so much, Doreen. That was quite insightful. I think let's hear all the groups and then we can give a general comment on all of them. So we're going to group 2. Who is presenting?
I will be presenting for group 2.
Thank you so much, Jen. You can share your screen if you want.
Yes. Are you able to see my screen?
You have not shared yet, have you?
Shared.
Really?
Yeah, really. Come down there.
Share.
Share screen. I know you know where it is. Click on that, and then it will just pop up the screen.
Now, where is that icon? I'm losing it.
Down there near the chat one. The chat, then next one is share screen. It's actually blue. Is it blue or green? Green.
Okay.
Green.
Some arrow going up. Did you see it?
Sister, I normally direct her on these things.
Lauren, this is your teammate. You need to join hands to have that screen come up.
I don't know what's happening on my screen. Can I just read?
Okay.
Yeah, let me just read what we have. Our team members are myself, Clemens Tauya, Shelter, and Agaba. And what we came with as far as the steps for the designing of an effective pest surveillance and monitoring program is concerned, we realized that there is need to have a well-established NPPO body by government that is responsible for discharging the functions specified by the IPPC, and that is the pest surveillance and monitoring programs. So on that note, the NPPO will identify the target pest depending on the need basis, whether probably there has been an interception notification, or maybe the regulations have been revised, or maybe there is need to know the pest status for a certain region. So we identify the target pest. And then we define the scope and the purpose. That is the reason why we want to do the surveillance. Then after we identify the reason and how, that is in terms of coverage, we want to do the surveillance, then we identify the timing of the survey. And the timing of the survey will be guided by the biology of the pest. For example, if we consider a pest like Codling Moth that is said to be active at dusk, then probably we also need to consider which is the best multiplication season for the pest, and that will guide in terms of defining the timings that we are going to do the survey. Then the other thing is to identify the statistical basis to determine the level of confidence, and this one is will include the determination of the sample size and then the selection of the number of sites that we are going to select. Then after that, we describe the survey methodology, and on survey methodology, we'll consider what are we going to, or how are we going to conduct the surveillance. For example, for a pest like Codling Moth, we would consider to decide whether we are going to do the trap monitoring, whereby we go around setting traps, and then after a duration, we come collecting the traps back and see whether it has captured any pest in terms of the pest, the Codling Moth, or are we going to use the fruit collection, whereby we are going to check for the larval stages of the pest. So the survey methodology will define that. And then on that note, we are also going to define the sampling procedure. And on sampling procedure, we want to know whether we are collecting the sampling procedure, the parts to be collected, how are the samples going to be packaged in order to preserve their integrity, and how are they going to be transported to the lab for further analysis. And once we know that, then we prepare for the budget for the resource allocation. So the teams will confirm the availability of the required funds and allocate resources for the activity that is pest surveillance, either specific or general. Then we are going to communicate to the stakeholders. During our communication to the stakeholders, we request the stakeholders on the information that they will give or they will need to have ready, probably on the history of the pest, whether it has ever been reported present in the site of concern, or maybe if they are aware of such existence of the pest, or the history in general, what do they know about that pest, and what can they offer in terms of what would they require from the survey team. Then we'll prepare for the surveillance itself. After now we have the communication with the stakeholders, we know that we are reading from the same page. This is what the stakeholders have, and this is what the NPPO has, and we have already defined the gaps. We know now where we are going to start in conducting the pest surveillance. So when we are going to conduct the pest surveillance, there is need for preparation, and that is to ensure that we have all the tools that are required for accurate sample collection, including the availability of reagents, that is the specific reagents for lab analysis, to ensure that a pest that was identified or it is a suspect pest in the field, it has been confirmed to be present, or it has been confirmed fully by laboratory diagnostic methods. Then we are going to define on how the data will be analyzed, whether we are going to use any statistical programs to use, or we are just going to report present or absent, or there are any tools that we are going to consider. For example, if it is a pest that we assume it could have mutated to a different strain, then there is need to incorporate highly sensitive analytical tools. For example, the sequencing and the bioinformatic tools that will be able to specifically identify a specific pest, that will tell us whether what we are trying to target is truly present, or is it's assumed to be absent. And this will guide us in reporting either false positive or false negative, and it will guide us in avoiding the false negative reports or false positive reports. Then we'll define on the reporting procedures, whereby we will define who is reporting and reporting to who, whether it is the NPPO reporting to the other NPPOs, or RPPOs, or even the FAO. Then the teams will agree on the frequency of monitoring, the inspections, and the collective action plans of the pest. Then the data will be verified, analyzed, and stored for present and future reference. Then on the next question on experiences as compared to the IPPC 2016, we realized that surveillance monitoring programs, it is not done promptly due to limited resources in terms of funds. We could realize that we have probably need to do a specific surveillance for a specific pest. Then we realize we do not have resources. Probably we do not have the positive controls, or we do not have the specific reagents, and there is need to place a budget that will facilitate the purchase of the required resources. And some of them could be limited in terms of probably they are not locally available. For example, some positive controls have to be imported from other countries, and that would require a lot of procedures to be followed, the protocols to be followed for a certain strain, or maybe a strain to be purchased. And there is also the risk of probably introducing that strain into your country, which is assumed not to be present. So there are those risks that, that are coming in also. Then the implementation procedures have a lot of similarity in how they are conducted. Then we also realized that there is lack of proper data collection methods, and in most cases, data verification is equally hard. On this note, we realized that most of the NPPOs probably have not adopted the modern methods of data collection. They do not have the tools like the ODK that are considered to be highly sensitive in data collection and accurate in data collection. And therefore, it becomes very hard to collect the data that is required for a specific pest. Then there is the presence of legislation and policies to back up desired surveillance protocols. Then lastly, we said, we realized that surveillance programs are hugely limited by adequate human resources, mainly due to underfunding. So that is what we discussed. I don't know whether there are any reactions. I hope I was not very fast. I'm still struggling to share my screen, but I hope you have heard me. Thank you.
We got
Thank
you
you
so
very
well,
much, Jane.
Grace, which group is going? Group 3, I think.
Yeah, group 3.
As group 3 joined, I thank a few more participants who have joined us. I think Dr. Caroline, happy to see you. Katrina and Jade, happy to see you. Caroline is from Uganda, and Katrina and Jade is from Seychelles. I think the others, well, again, have I not recognized? I think we say hi to us at the tail end of the training so that we go on with the discussion. Group 3, we have been waiting for you. Who is presenting?
Hi, I'll present for group 3.
Thank you. Do you want to share your screen?
Yes, I'll share my screen. Just a minute.
And also, it was good that we see your face because we have seen that their faces except you so far.
You saw mine at the introduction, no? Let me see. Share my screen. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Not yet.
Not yet.
This one is okay?
It's coming. Perfect.
Yeah.
It's there. Just
Yeah, it's there.
Yes, perfect.
All right. So our group was Laurent and Georgina as well. And the steps for the design of an effective pest surveillance and monitoring program. Number 1, we need to decide which pest is to be monitored according to our own pest risk analysis and our country's priority, because it may differ from country to country. Secondly, define the purpose and rationale of the surveillance along with clear objectives. And then conduct a cost-benefit analysis along with the feasibility analysis for the surveillance, because you might not have enough resources to conduct everything to meet all your objectives. And if it's for a long period, ensure that the program is sustainable. And you have to analyze the ability of the NPPO to identify the targeted pest, because sometimes, if for example the pest is new, your specialist or technician might not have the ability to identify it properly. So if your staff cannot identify the pest, there'll be trouble during the surveillance itself. So you might need the help of other available partners, and provide a detailed on status and provide a detailed description of the targeted pest or pests. Let me see. And then you need to define the timing of the survey, including the frequency and duration, take into consideration the life cycle of the pest and its most destructive stage, the host growth stage, and the season and weather patterns. You also need to define the survey area and the sites according to the level of risk, ecology, presence of hosts, reported presence or absence of the pest, the biology of the pest, and its economic significance. And then you need to define what and how data and the samples are collected. You need to develop SOPs to ensure that the spread of the pest is not facilitated by the survey itself. To prevent contamination and to ensure specimen integrity for diagnosis. And then, of course, you need to develop education and awareness campaigns along with all the necessary materials and tools, be it via your website, leaflets, apps, whatever you can come up with. You need to set up mechanisms for reporting locally and also internationally. And then, of course, if possible, conduct periodical performance review so that you can improve on the program. Let me see. So in comparison, we've noted that the IPPC plant surveillance document is a very detailed document. But we do use it as a main guide, but due to limited resources and budget constraints, sometimes it is difficult for us to follow each and every step as guided by the document. And the aspect of biosecurity and sanitation is difficult sometimes, depending on various constraints that we encounter, such as weather, for example, the rain. Difficulties are also encountered during the handling and delivery of samples to the laboratories, especially when surveillance duration is very long and the location is very far from the labs. And then also periodical performance reviews sometimes are not done, mainly due to the cost. And most countries sometimes do not budget this part of the program. And some monitoring surveys are not being carried out, again, because it's expensive and most countries are understaffed. That's it from Group 3. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Happy to see you. Your presentation too, but too bad you didn't share the screen so that you're able to see your face, but it's okay. So we move to Group 4. Group 4, I think, is a group of Jed or Group 4, who is presenting for us?
Stop sharing.
Okay.
Group 4, who is going? Esther, is it you?
I will. Okay.
Thank you. Don't be sure.
Okay, let me share. Let me share. Just a moment. Okay, can you see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'll present on behalf of Group 4, which is composed of Shupikai, Jed, Mendy, and myself. So starting with the first part, what we came up with for the steps for designing an effective pest surveillance and monitoring program. The first part will be in choosing the title for the survey. And once that is done, then we will identify the purpose, which includes recording the rationale on why we are going to conduct the survey, whether it's going to be detecting the pest or determining how the pest is distributed in the area, or to monitor the pest characteristics in the area. And once that is done, then we'll have to identify the target, which might be the pest or the host plant or an alternative host for the pest, or we can focus on the commodity or the pathway or a combination of any of these. And the next step would be to review any other surveys that could be similar to what we are going to do. And in case we find work that has been done before that is similar, this can also help us enrich our survey. The next step would be to identify the survey area and also provide brief details on the climate, the topography, and also capture the geographical coordinates of the area. In case you want to go back and do more research, we have our information captured on location. Then the next step would be to specifically identify the place, site, and also the sampling site, which could also, under the sampling site, we could identify either the trees or the plants, yeah, depending on the purpose of the survey. So once we have the survey site identified, then we go ahead to calculate the sample size. And again, this also depends on the purpose for which the survey is going to be done. The next step after calculating the sample size would be to establishing the timing of the survey. That is, when are we going to do the survey, and also the frequency of surveying. How often are the field personnel going to go out in the field to collect data? After that is done, the next step would be to plan data collection in the field. And also identify the methods that we shall be using to analyze the data, identify the data unit that we shall be focusing on. After that, the next step will be to identify the methods of collecting specimens. This could be insect pest specimens or plant pest specimens, yeah, things like that, or even weeds, but weeds are also plants anyway. And how we also, under this, we also need to consider issues of ensuring that the pest is not going to be spread as we collect the specimens. Issues of biosecurity and ensuring that we contain the pests without spreading them to other places. And then we also think about data storage. How are we going to store the data once it's collected electronically, manually? Yeah, we get to determine that. And also within identifying the method of data storage, we could also design the spreadsheet for the database in case we need to refer to it in future. The next step would also be identifying the people that will be involved in the survey, and also taking records of whom is going to be part of the team, and also organizing specific trainings for the people that will be involved during the survey, and also providing them with more information regarding the survey. And also it's important to obtain permission for accessing the survey sites, regardless of okay, you might find that after all this is done, you have prepared, you have planned and designed your survey properly, but then you're denied access to the area in which you're going to conduct the survey. So it's also prudent to obtain permission prior to conducting the survey. And then it would be a good idea to conduct a pilot to validate the survey area, take a look at the site, and also go through the protocols that you'll be employing in the survey, getting familiar with the tools that you'll be using to collect the data, and also take the team through the whole procedure. So you might find that in case you identify any challenges during the pilot, then we will find means of going about these challenges and refining the final product more. So after conducting the pilot, then you actually go out in the field and perform the real survey, collect the raw data and the specimens, and then analyze the data, and finally report the results that you will have gotten from conducting the survey. That was the first part. The second part of the question, which is about experience in designing for pest surveillance. How does it compare with the IPCC 2016? For this, we've managed to compile something small, and we realized from among the group members that the issue that is cross-cutting is issues of funding. Most of the countries, NPPOs are constrained with resources regarding funds. So the NPPOs activities are actually limited due to unavailability of funds to conduct the activities, the surveys. And then the other issue is to do with understaffing of the NPPOs, especially for the technical staff, which limits the implementation of pest surveillance. Yeah, that is what we managed to come up with in group 4. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Esther. And I'm thinking all the groups have now presented, unless we have one group which has not presented.
No, they have all presented, Grace. So just make a summary on the feedback and a review of this.
Yeah, looking at all the presentations, all our participants have now gotten a clear, a clear understanding of how to plan and execute, whether it is a general surveillance or a specific surveillance, including what would be the likely challenges that they are likely to encounter. And coming out clearly is the issue of sustainable, funding. Every NPPO is resource constrained, and therefore, I think as an NPPO, to make this really a sustainable government program, that would mean that government has to invest in it, and therefore you as NPPO lobby your government, and after all, it is for national good. No, it doesn't benefit any donor. It doesn't benefit anyone else other than for that nation. The benefit is for that nation, and therefore governments should put money in it. Lobby the governments to include pest surveillance into their national budgets. So this can be taken up at a higher level. Of course, the directors of NPPO should really take that up. Otherwise, other funding agencies like STDF, DF,
Are you hearing Grace?
Grace,
we can't
they
hear
make
him.
calls for proposals, and they support matters of sanitary and phytosanitary.
Grace, we lost you.
Can you hear me now?
No, we lost you. That after that part of the senior management engaging the government to put more funding into the NPPOs, then we lost you. We lost you on that part.
I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Now begin on that part of incorporating also the NGOs and non-governmental organizations.
Okay, I did mention that, which you didn't, of course, hear, that the STDF, Standards and Trade Development Facility, normally comes up with the calls for proposals, and they support sanitary and phytosanitary programs in countries. So, and maybe other development partners can be contacted. But otherwise, the most sustainable one is when government injects in money. After all, government is #1 beneficiary of pest surveillance. To add on to that, the capacities of of the technical personnel under pest surveillance has got to be enhanced, and therefore there has to be a deliberate program for capacity development for these cadres. I think those are some of the key areas that I've picked, but otherwise all your presentations are good. You've mastered it, and I'm sure when you go back home, you are likely to, put it into practice. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Grace. So actually, the key thing is that we need to collaborate. So look for partners that can collaborate as much as possible, because definitely funding from the government will not always be sufficient. That is guaranteed. So we may need to look for, as an NPPO, partners that may want to join hands and collaborate with you. I think private sectors would be so much willing. Like I know in Naivasha, I would have really wanted Zilpa or Jen to comment on that. I know the farmers, they are doing the horticulture, would really are already doing some of the tasks that NPPO are supposed to do, and so they want to collaborate. Or even the organizations such as COLEACP may want to collaborate with you. So look for collaborators and partners so that you're able to support much of these operations. I think participants, we will beg 20 of your minutes of your time. Today being the last session, it's not too much to ask for 20 minutes extra, kindly, so that you're able to finish up and say bye-bye for another time. So I think at this point, Grace, I want to usher you in to make us a presentation on fall codling moth as a case study on how to implement, how to implement specific surveillance.
Thank you. I'll see how to share my screen. I hope I'm in a position to, a moment, just a moment, please. My document is on desktop, but when I open the share screen, let's see. This is quite different. It's on desktop, but when I open this, let me again save it on desktop again and see if it can be shared.
Are you making any progress, or we could do another?
Just a moment. Let me see if it's this one here. I think it's this.
I think there's something coming.
Yeah, I'm thinking so. Just start from the first slide. Put it in presentation mode. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, and I just apologize. I don't know what takes place in my internet, because sometimes you hear me and sometimes you don't hear me. It's not my own making. So this last part of our presentation today is about false codling moth. We know that it's one of the most troubling pests, and for a country like my country, it is causing us serious, warnings and interceptions from our trading partners, the European Union. So this is actually a moth. If you see this slide, it's a moth that is the adult. And then these are the life stages. So it will lay its eggs, and the eggs are not laid in batches. If you are not able to hear me, just stop me and then we pause it a bit.
We can get you.
Okay. The eggs are laid singly, not in batches. So if you go out into doing your pest surveillance, particularly on pepper, and then you find single creamish eggs, they are likely to be the eggs of adult, FCM. And the larval stages are in developmental stages, and it keeps changing color as it develops. So there are about 5 developmental stages, instar stages of the larval stages, and as it becomes big, it now tends to assume a pinkish or brownish color. And this is the pupae. The pupae will pupate on the ground. Most pupae of Lepidopteran pests pupate in the ground. These are the most destructive stages, the larval stages. They're the ones that bow in and eat and, you know, put funny things on your pepper fruit, and then you cannot market it. And it's not only the beauty of the, I mean, destroying the beauty of the fruit, it's also that it has the potential to migrate and establish in areas where they are not wanted. The EU does not want this pest in its territory. So this particular pest is a pest of Africa. Its center of diversity is Sub-Saharan Africa. You can see where there are yellow dots. That's where the reports have been sent that the pest is there. Countries like this is Congo Brazzaville. I can't tell which country is this. I know this is Cameroon. This one here, this could be Gabon. I really don't know. But you see where there are yellow spots, and the one of Dr. Frederick's place is even red. So you might find even their distribution could be the same, except the reporting is the issue. But all in all, you see it's present in Sub-Saharan Africa and also the islands of Africa. I'm not sure if it's in Seychelles. Maybe the participants from Seychelles could tell us. So that's the pest. And here in Europe, they are still not there, but the reports have indicated that this pest is in Israel. So what probably prevents it from, you know, crossing is the desert. The desert is so vast, but of course it can go into Europe through the commodities that we trade in. So this pest actually is native to Africa, as we have just heard, and it affects so many plant species. You find them in maize, in cotton, in citrus, in guava, in pomegranate, in capsicums, avocado, in macadamia. For the case of Uganda, our exports of capsicum have issues with this particular pest. I'm sure also other countries could be facing similar problems. And this, of course, already explains bullet number 1. So the detection of this pest in the fruit itself is very difficult. Once it is feeding from inside, you can almost not tell that there's a pest, there is a larval stage inside. So it's quite difficult, but you will see windows, you will see, you know, a point of puncture or a point of entry that it will have penetrated the fruit with, and can be very destructive inside there. And its life cycle will depend on the availability of food and also the quality of food. It will also depend on the latitude. Of course, the latitude, this would mean the warmth. When it is cold or when it is warmer areas, probably have this at a very high, their infestation at a very high level. And also the effects of predators. So their life cycle can be as short as 30 days to as long as 170 days. So if it's 30 days, that means you can have 12 cycles in a year. So if you have a periodic growing of capsicum or host plants, which are quite many, so they can move from one host plant to another host plant, and then they can hide there. And that's why it's very difficult to manage this particular pest. So it has a potential to establish and spread, of course, in a southern part of Europe, which is warmer, subtropical. I already mentioned that it is there it's reported in Israel. So what should then an FCM surveillance program look like? It should actually have a strategy like we have mentioned, like you've been making it in your presentations. Let me stop here. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, Grace.
Okay, good. Like we've already mentioned, there should be a purpose for undertaking the FCM surveillance. This could be, you could be looking at PFA, you could be looking at ALPP, you could be looking at a pest-free production site. And for the pest-free production site, this is production in screen houses. And this is normally, in some places, this is how capsicum is produced for export. In other places, in my country, it is mixed. You have open production by other farmers, and then also production in confinement. So when you're doing that program, there should be an action plan that you will have developed as an NPPO, and this should spell out what kind of activities are you're going to implement, and the timing of the implementation itself, how you are going to collect the data, how you are also going to manage that data, and then how you are going to communicate, and depending on who you're going to communicate with, and communicating what. So the surveillance program should also take into account the composition and mobilization of surveillance teams. Remember that we did mention this many times. And remember, this is being a single pest, it would then be very suitable to do specific pest surveillance, not general. Remember, you cannot use now general pest surveillance because this pest is everywhere and it's found on a number of host plants. And therefore, specific pest surveillance is the one that applies. So you also need to look at the resources, which includes also equipment and tools that you're going to use. And then going now into actual implementation itself. How are you going to get your sources of information, and how are you going to manage it? Of course, if you are in a confined, if you're doing your surveillance in a confined production site, definitely the agronomists at that site should also be in a position, to help you collect the kind of data that you want. Probably they've been doing it. You need to cross-check with them and establish if they've been doing it. And if they've been doing it, then you cross-check. How have they been doing it? So, and then you can also give them guidance, or you can, in the process of doing your surveillance, you can still, train them. So it's important to engage with them. And then you have a communication plan. Of course, have a well-defined communication plan. You'll be communicating to the producers, to the exporters, the buyers, and then the trading partners. You need to take these important aspects into considerations. You need to take into account the importance of the plant, of the host plant, including the alternate hosts. Like if you're looking at capsicum, at what level does this pest come in? You are looking also at capsicum, and probably the capsicum is grown under protection. Look at the construction itself, at the screener itself. If there are avenues where this pest can come in, you can advise the producers to take the appropriate measure. So take the host and the alternate hosts into account. Take also into account the production method, if it is field or confined. If it is field, you are likely to get a lot more of this pest. First of all, is because the alternate hosts are everywhere, and then the pest management in the field may not be as thorough as pest management in confinement production. Take also into the account the season of production. Like if it is field production, open production, wet weather normally has impact on pest population. Let's say if it rained heavily, you'd never know what could happen to the eggs. Maybe they are washed away, maybe they are destroyed, maybe the smaller insta-larvae are also washed away. So take that into account. Not also the decision on what type of surveillance to adopt. I already mentioned that it is specific surveillance that is suitable for FCM. So, even though you have selected specific surveillance, are you going to look at it from a detection point of view? Let's say it is a newly established confined production, and you're just going in there for the first time. You want to detect whether this pest is there. Maybe the confinement is so nicely done that you won't expect to get the pest, but because the pest is small, there could be establishment, and therefore you need to go in there and detect. Maybe you want to delimit. You have been periodically doing your FCM surveillance in a place, and management practices have been put in place, and therefore you want to establish whether this pest is still there or not, or its extent of spread. Or maybe you just want to monitor. You monitor the progress in its population so that you advise accordingly on what measures to take. So your interest in doing FCM pest surveillance could be guided by either a detection survey, a delimiting survey, or monitoring survey. And then the issue of protocol, which we've just talked about. So the choice of whether you want to use any of those survey methods will be determined by the production systems. Well, I've mentioned the open air production system and then closed or confined production system. It also depends on whether a regionalization of FCM in a production system has been established and how it's officially maintained. There was an issue raised about pest-free area in Africa, and I think I did mention this, but it might be very difficult, to have a pest-free area for codling moth. But you can have a pest-free production site for codling moth. And I know the EU regulation recommends that even when you are using, it gives countries 4 options: pest-free area, pest-free production site. There are 2 other options. And then it recommends an option which focuses on pest-free production site. But even if it's pest-free production site for capsicum, you are expected to combine this with the systems approach. I'm sure you all are aware of a systems approach to ensure that the pest population is really, really brought down. So your surveillance for FCM, your planning for FCM surveillance should take into account the pest-free production site for the production of capsicum that you are looking at. It may not necessarily be capsicum per se, it could be some other crop, but on which FCM is important. Survey could also be used to determine the extent and means of dispersal of FCM. This is a moth and it flies, and therefore you have no control over it. So whichever direction it takes to fly, it will go. So for you as an NPPO, of course, you are targeting, first of all, its presence, and also looking at the destructive stage, which is the larval stage, which is less mobile compared to the moth, and therefore that would be the stage, for making a recommendation, to take action, to take management measures. Monitoring survey is more relevant when you're assessing population dynamics. I did mention this of the pest for decision making, and then also for management measures. It can also be used to assess the effectiveness of a pest management measure applied on FCM. So why must surveillance on FCM be done then? As an NPPO, you also want to know the status of FCM in a capsicum production site. You are trading with your trading partner, and particularly countries that trade in capsicum. You've been requested to prepare dossiers. You've been requested to prepare the support, also to prepare good practice guide, quite a number of documents and quite a number of interest in capsicum. And therefore, FCM for countries that trade in this commodity becomes actually very, very, very critical. Surveillance of FCM and periodic reports on FCM becomes very critical. So you may also wish to undertake periodic surveys in relation to the weather data or pest pattern, things like the wind, the rains, the dry weather. So you can, in your plan, you can actually have a regime of surveillance for FCM so that you know the trend, you know what is happening. If there's information required of you to, to deliver to your trading partner, you are well armed with your information. And therefore, this as an NPPO is very, very vital. So the ability for you to identify a target pest, and if the capacity is lacking, research institutions should help you. Of course, I know there are pests that come in, this is just general, there are pests that come in and we have never encountered them. Sometimes you may have to ship that pest outside your country. I know, I think there is an institution in the UK that helps countries identify pests, but of course, it's quite expensive. But take note of that. But for certain pests, we have CABI. CABI can help us with the identification. ICP can also help us with identification if you cannot identify locally. Of course, for false codling moth, there is another pest that looks more or less like it, and therefore it can easily be mistaken. But now, if you use a pheromone trap that is specific to FCM, it should only be able to trap for you FCM. So the scope of the survey should also be defined. We did mention this many times. The timing should be defined. You should also consider the statistical approaches when you go to do your FCM sampling. For example, the sample size, the number of samples, how you're going to select it, the frequencies, what assumptions. And for FCM, I've already mentioned that the larval stage is the most deadly stage. The survey methods, this I have also mentioned, you can use, you can be doing FCM surveillance just to detect. And when you are doing that, you want to detect the presence, what you would need are the traps, the pheromone traps. You can do visual inspection, you can sample the soil for the pupae. You can actually also cut through the capsicum fruits and examine and see if you are in a position to get those as maybe first or second instar larvae in the fruit. If you are doing monitoring survey for FCM, you can still use pheromone traps. You can still go ahead and do your visual inspections for the life stages. You can also cut and examine. So when are you supposed to act? The recommendation by CABI is that when you find 5 to 10 caterpillars on a plant, take action. Take action when you find 5 to 10 caterpillars. Or when 10% of the plants examined contain eggs. Of course, your sampling size should be able to tell you when you will have reached 10%. You use the pheromone traps I've already mentioned to trap the adults. And the traps are laid at a rate of 1 trap for every 5 acres. So that means the trap, the pheromone there is very strong. If it can lure, at only 1 in 5 acres. Also take action when 7 adult male moths are trapped in 1 night. So what do you do with the data then that you will have obtained during the survey? The data or any information captured in the field is important and should be handled and stored well. You as an NPPO, you can record this and do that in your well-prepared data sheets, or you can enter it directly into a computer program. You then go ahead and process that data, and you can use it for a number of purposes, which could include, guiding decision for appropriate actions that you can take. The information, it can also help in informing, and you can use it as an advocacy tool to policymakers or decision makers to prioritize FCM pest surveillance. You can use it also to finally do your communication and information sharing with stakeholders. Your stakeholders are the producers, the exporters, the trading partners. This same data can feed into the national reporting obligation. Thank you so much. I hope you were able to hear me up to the end. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Grace. We have had the end. It's just that now we have taken participants all the time. And so participants, we are finishing up right away. So sorry for that extra time taken, but it was important that you do that, we have that presentation, and we also began at least 10 minutes late. So we're also waiting for you. So if you give us 3 minutes to start to extend a bit, I hope it's not so bad of a crime. Grace, we are presenting, I think, Katrina from Seychelles, National Biosecurity Agency of Seychelles, did confirm that they have not yet witnessed the FCM, and
oh, that's good.
Yes, I think the ocean barrier, being an island, is playing safe for them. So I hope the NPPO, hope your NPPO be careful, take much measures so that you don't have this dangerous pest get into your region. And also, she's asking if we could be able to share the list of some of these institutions that you have mentioned, these such institutions that can assist with pest identification. I think we can share that later on, but also in the module 4 and 5, in that resources that are provided there, these are listed there, including CABI. And then Zilpad said that this thing is messing up export of roses and capsicum, I think, from Kenya, and they're really up and up. Safe, protect it and protect that. So I think, thank you so much, Grace, for that. I want reactions from participants in the next 1 or 2 minutes. Participants, kindly, if you have any reactions, just unmute and share, or you can type. Just unmute, and then you post the question, or you can chat it. I'll pick it up from there. Do you have any question or reaction? Okay. As you, I think I moved the next section, hoping that there's no reaction this last part. But if you have, as you think of the problem or the question, just post it there. I'll be polling again in the next 2 minutes. Meanwhile, let me go to the platform today and share with you what is happening there. So this is the platform, and this week, as you know, we have been handling these 2 modules, module 5 and 4. And in module 4, you are required to interact with sequences, 3 sequences. And I think most of you have done that. I've just checked the gradebook, and thank you for doing that. I've also seen your assignments. One assignment individual for the group work. We'll review them today and get you the feedback before the day ends today. And Catherine, you can get that material under the supplementary resources. So it's actually here and also here. So in module 5, we were contextualizing operationalization of what of this specific surveillance with a case study of false codling moth, which Grace has just done. And so the discussion is available here. I've seen some of you have interacted with them. If you have not, kindly check it out. All that discussion is given here to give you a hands-on approach to this to that discussion. So in so today's session, the recording will be available for you in case you want to make some quick references or information will be appended here for you so that you're able to check it out. If you miss the Monday session, it's available here. Otherwise, today's important message that you take home, if you were to forget everything, is that you have discussed how to operationalize specific pest surveillance and how to contextualize it, and the techniques and the integrities that are involved in it. And we have looked practically on how we can incorporate false codling moth into that discussion. And so that can be applied, that framework or that guide can be applied to any pest within your of your concern in your NPPO. So I think up to that end, checking your, oh, Nigure, I'm seeing you online. I thought you're in training, okay. Apart from, I think for your grade work, your performance in terms of interacting with this content, I think is amazing. A few of us have not finished. I think finish up before evening today, so that you're able to grade for you to be able to collect your certificate. Next bit is introducing you to something called evaluation form. It's important that you keep us posted on how this training has been. So kindly after this training, I'll be able to have this activated. Go here to the evaluation training form, click on it and be able to evaluate the training. Just be able to, you cannot see it from this side because I'm the trainer unless I change my role. So you're able to kindly go there and evaluate. Yeah, basically answer the questions. Here they are. Go give us responses here. It's just to help us improve the training for the next cohort, okay? Once you're done with that, then I think by that time in the evening, your certificate should be ready for download. So I think by evening, they should be ready. The training manager is working on them. So go work, then you can download, I can then download your certificate for the training. So ensure that you finish your assignments before evening. You attend to you answer the training evaluation form before evening, so that let's say in the course of the evening or tomorrow over the weekend, yeah, I think let's work with the kind. In the course of the weekend, you can have ready your training certificate. So I want to take it back to Grace, and then we're able to wind up. Grace, take it over.
Yeah, I would like to thank all of us who have come this far from when we started early April, and today is 30th April. Thank you for being so resilient. Thank you for liking the training. It is going to go a long way to support our systems as competent authorities in our respective countries. I think there is a question that I've seen typed. Laurent is asking how long they can be in a position to access the Moodle platform. So I don't know, maybe Dr. Frederick, you could throw some light on that?
You will have access to this content as much as you wish. So because already are registered to it, so you can always access the content, Laurent. So don't worry about it. But you see, being that it's hosted in the group, maybe after some time, maybe I don't know, 6 months, 3 months, they may decide not to make it available. But I think it's available for now. So because it's not taking much space anyway on the server, so it's available for you. And I'm also seeing Jen is saying that certificate is confidential. Yes, Jen, you can only see your certificate, cannot see mine. So it's very, very confidential. Yes, I think before I take it back to Grace to finish it up, I think I want to say that thank you so much for participants. You've been amazing. I hope you've mastered all that were required of this training in regard to pest surveillance, right from the general surveillance to specific surveillance to the tasks and the roles of the NPPO in regard to pest surveillance. And I hope that you have met also some interesting people in this training, and that you have networked, and that you have shared contacts, and that you can even carry is very important, and that you have shared experiences, and that you have compared notes, and that you have seen what as the NPPO you may need to improve on. So I think I want to leave it an open floor. You can say hi to us and open your cameras, and then just say something as we wind up, and then you can always close. Otherwise, so far right now, we are done with the training. So back to you, Grace, and participants, kindly put your cameras on. I want to take a good photo.
Thank you so much.